Welcome to Truth or Raps. Now, I hope this video doesn't have the audio out of sync. Out of sync. Out of sync. Out of sync. Was that in sync? Did that look in sync? I hope it sounded as good as a song by the group NSYNC. Larger Than Life. I remember liking that song as a kid, and I also remember I was this might give you a good snapshot of where I was back then. I was born in 1990, and around the time like the Backstreet Boys became popular and stuff, my response to it wasn't just like sort of that's just more BS from the music industry, or like that looks that just looks really commercial and it looks like very much just a product made for people, and it doesn't seem like it's particularly creative in terms of the melodies of the songs, perhaps, or in terms of the lyrics, almost certainly. Although I guess the lyrics were finely written and probably in terms of being pop lyrics, but like commercial polished pop lyrics or something. But it's not, like it's not particularly perhaps a great show of skill with these guys singing. I imagine they were adequate enough and they were probably skilled enough to make a sort of high quality or impression, good impressions kind of pop song. I think they may have, they may have been a perfectly adequate group, and perhaps that helped them rise to where they were. That doesn't mean that they weren't propaganda in some sense. That doesn't mean that they weren't something maybe you might use the word Tavistock in relation to, or something along those lines anyway. That doesn't mean any of that wasn't going on. But in any case, where I was back at that time was sort of like Doug Funny in the show Doug in the Nickelodeon show Doug, not the Disney version that came out a little after that and sort of had a different art style and seemingly different everything other than like some of the characters and the location and stuff. But even Doug was older. Like I think it actually there was a hilarious scene. I remember seeing this on TV and being thrilled. I was whatever age I was when this episode, probably within the year that this episode would have come out or something. But Chalky Studebaker, one of the characters, he was like they were in the library or something, and he was like reading about a certain kind of animal in a textbook or something or whatever it was, and he referred to the animal as the plural version of that animal word as jackasses. And it was like somebody said jackasses on a Disney show on the Disney Channel. And it was so, like, I was like, oh my God. It was similar to the Rocko's Modern Life scene where they open the door and they're like, whoever it is opening the door, I think it might have been Rocco and his friend Heifer opening the door. Whoever it was opening the door, they were like angry or something, and they open the door and they said, "What in the hell?" And like the joke was that they were merging "what in the hell" with "hello," and so essentially they were still, in a certain sense, very much saying "what in the hell" on Nickelodeon, and that just thrilled me as a kid. Like you hear that, and even like now, if I saw that on a kids station, it would be like sort of it'd be like, oh shit, they're really breaking some boundaries there and saying something that a kid's station might not be thought to say. And probably, it's probably not great for a kid's station to be like using vulgarity and stuff anyway. And of course, the word hell, that's sort of a lower level curse word. Really, in a certain sense, it might not even be a curse word, but just it sort of has a curse wordy sense about it. Given and I can point to evidence for that, such as people saying "what the heck." If you say "what the heck," generally you're saying that in place of "what the hell." But in any case, to go back to it, I was sort of like Doug in the show Doug, the original Doug show, being, and maybe probably the Disney series as well, but like Doug in the original Doug show, he and his friends, they'd get really excited about the band The Beats, and it was sort of like kind of seemed like sort of an 80s, like lighter 80s heavy metal kind of thing, but the name The Beats, of course, sounds like a reference to the Beatles, but and they sort of like in interviews and stuff, like their personalities would be similar to the Beatles, but their clothing style was like leather jackets and like 80s like spiky hair and stuff, and it seemed like they were playing again sort of like the pop heavy metal of the time. Like it's actually kind of fun for me to have realized recently, like, yeah, a lot of the 80s stuff that was actually truly popular was heavy metal. Like, like the Rock You Like a Hurricane or something. Like, that is sort of heavy metal. It's like, it's not just rock, like, it is metal in a certain sense. And they sort of, the Scorpions were more like, I don't know if I'd call them hair metal. In a certain sense, it seems to me like Scorpions, not the Scorpions, just Scorpions. It seems to me like Scorpions is probably better referred to as, I don't know, some other kind of metal. Hair metal sounds a little derogatory anyway, and so perhaps I just don't want to insult Scorpions. Uh, and I don't know much Scorpion stuff. I see it. This guy from Sea of Tranquility on YouTube recommended Blackout by Scorpions as like a starter heavy metal album in a recent video. I think it just came out yesterday, actually. It was one of those sort of fun, really, occasions where you see a video and it's like uploaded 10 minutes ago, or maybe like uploaded 10 hours ago. It's like, oh shit, somebody associated to this video. Maybe the damn guy on the screen uploaded this video today, and I'm watching it, or maybe he set it up to upload like today. He had it scheduled. I imagine that's how a lot of YouTubers do it, but I think a lot of them also just kind of do a video and then post it, like I'm doing here. Right Conscious is actually a stunning example of that. I like Right Conscious's stuff pretty well, although he's still... I get the sense that he's sort of like a spiritual kind of guy who's kind of breaking out of various modes of conditioning, but he's still sort of leaning back on that. A really good example of that, actually. In a recent video, he had David Foster Wallace like talking in a radio interview or something, and for the image on the screen while he had the radio clip going, or whatever it was, the audio, he had put up a slide that said, like, good things about the Alcoholics Anonymous Bible versus, like, good things about the book Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, which is apparently sort of about, like, addiction and AA or something, so okay. But then it said, like, written by a dead white male, or something, like written by an average white male or something on the left side, and then on the Infinite Jest side it said written by an average white male, and like in those cases, like the points were basically the same. I think it expanded on it on the right side, but I actually wrote a comment saying like, hey man, like I know it's sort of just cheeky and whatever, but like if your channel is talking in sort of glowing or positive terms about David Foster Wallace, and then you literally like have something on the screen playing while David Foster Wallace is talking, no less, I don't think I emphasized that in the comment, you have something on the screen while David Foster Wallace's voice, the voice of this guy who supposedly died, not to say that I have evidence that he didn't die, but, like, according to the story, this guy died, like, more than 10 years ago, but still somewhat recently. It was actually, I think, like, in my literal first semester at Emerson College, he killed himself. I think it was, like, that September of 2009, or whenever it was, and they had a little display up at the college bookstore saying, like, a little David Foster Wallace display for him, which is kind of nice, and they actually had his stuff in, like, Professor's Works section, because I think he did teach at Emerson, like, for, like, a brief period of time. It's actually, like, he talks about, like, teaching certain places, and people tend to talk about him, like, teaching certain places, and, like, nobody mentions Emerson, but, like, I think he did teach at Emerson for a little while. It's, like, it's the hidden David Foster Wallace teaching location. Of course, it wasn't while I was there, but, like, you're disrespecting David Foster Wallace by having literally on the screen somebody having written with, like, the image next to it. Like, there was an image for, like, a positive and an image for a con or a negative, and the image for a con next to a statement written in the Infinite Jest category, the statement said, like, written by your average white male author or something, and it's like, you're literally having someone like put David Foster Wallace down for simply being white in your fucking video about David Foster Wallace, where you have, as you say yourself, this is the headquarters for David Foster Wallace stuff on YouTube or content or whatever, and or whatever, or but but I don't know. It's like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, that's incredibly disrespectful. It's actually literally racist because, they're literally marking it as a con that it was written by a white person. That's literally judging somebody by their race. And, but then later in the video, he does actually say, like, yeah, guys, I know, like, some of you might take issue with, like, he said something like, I don't agree with everything in the slide that I put under the audio of David Foster Wallace there, but, essentially I just put it there. And then I wrote in a secondary comment, I was like, okay, I hadn't gotten to the point where he said that part before this, but I was like, okay, because I think I paused the video or whatever on that slide, which was before he came back on the screen and said something about it. The Right Conscious guy did. And so I said, okay, I heard the part in a secondary comment attached to the first one, a response to my comment, but it was a secondary comment because I had a clarifying thing to say. Someone literally said to me recently, like, did you just respond to your own comment, or did you just reply to your own comment, LOL, or something like that with a shitty emoji? And I was like, yes, because sometimes people have an additional thing to say, and so I put that after I put the original thing that I said. And and he actually had he didn't have a combative response to me saying that, or like to that part of what I said to him. Like he didn't try to fight that. He was like, I think he may have just not mentioned it, or he may have said like, okay, or something along those lines, a little more than that, about me having said, yes, I did reply to myself because I was putting an additional thing that I had to say there. So in this Right Conscious video, and it might sound like, Matt, you're really hung up on that emotionally, and it's like, maybe I am more than others, but I tend to be in the habit of writing a few things at once. Like I write the original thing, and then I add a couple more things to clarify or explain or further say what I'm saying, or maybe say something new that I thought of to say after that. And it's like, I often get the impression, and I've heard people say this directly about like me sending multiple messages, whether it be multiple emails or writing multiple comments. Like, for example, that guy, I've heard people say directly, like, why are you sending multiple emails? Or like, you send too many things. And it's like, yeah, a way to support the Soundbite Society. Okay, to go back to the other points though. That first video was out of sync, I see, and that was because I had my headphones plugged into the computer, and so I clicked record, but then while it was counting down to actually start the recording, like what you see here, while it was counting down to that, I was like, oh shit, I took it out, because in some other videos, they're one of the recent videos, like within the last 5 or 6 or so, and I think it would have been the videos prior to me saying something about that in a video, like, oh, you won't have the scratching sound. In some other videos, I had this plugged into my computer, and then this is actually where where the audio was going into. Like, this was the microphone for the video when I had this plugged into the computer, and the microphone, based on how I was like sitting or something, the microphone would be scratching against like this collar, or just it might scratch against anything. And when it scratched against something, which actually happened relatively rarely, and thank goodness it did, because I think for every video up until me like pointing out that I didn't have it plugged into this time, I think literally every video, maybe other than the Sword Box and maybe the Venom video, but even that one I think it did. Which are older videos that I posted, and I have Swordbox posted on mattthoughts.com. I have the Venom analysis posted on the Matt Shtick Rumble channel, MATT space SHTICK, not SCHTICK. I actually had originally spelled the channel's name and one of the videos' name, the first video on that channel, as SCHTICK, and so that's the incorrect spelling of shtick. And I wasn't trying to spell it incorrectly. I thought, it was just like SCHTICK, but it felt a little weird. Dare I say Mandela-y, but I don't want to stand, I'm not sure. I don't have evidence for or against a Mandela effect there necessarily, but it did seem weird, SHTICK. It seems like it's missing something. Like the S to the H, it seems like it's a full enough sound that the C might belong there, But anyway, um, in the first clip for this video, I did have this plugged in while it was doing the countdown and after I had clicked record, but before it started recording. So I took it out and thought, I hope I took it out in time where it doesn't do that thing where you take it out during a video and then suddenly the sound is out of sync. And it's like, thank goodness it's not going to have the scratching sound, but I would not like the sound to be out of sync if I could have it not be. But, of course, I had taken it out late enough, apparently, even though it hadn't started actually recording the video that you would see, like, even though I hadn't gotten to the point of saying the things that you would then see in the video, still it was after I clicked record, and it was enough to fuck up the sound. And anyway, going back to the Backstreet Boys thing, I was sort of like Doug Funny saying the beats, because it's like these Backstreet Boys were like promoted, and it was like, oh, like I guess the promotion kind of worked. It might have had the right psychological effect, or the one that they were going for, because I didn't feel like it was something being sold to me. I didn't feel like, oh, like that's uncool or whatever. Like I was young enough at that point. I was probably like 7 or 8 or something. And like I basically, you might see some of the mindset that I was in back then, because and you might say, well, the mindset you were in as a child, it's like, yeah, be ye as little children, said Jesus, or ye will not enter the kingdom of heaven. But anyway, mindset was maybe sort of illuminated for you now, back then, by me saying, hey, the Backstreet Boys. That was good. Or really more like that might be good, because I don't think and that's not an Illuminati thing. You can go back to the first couple of videos for more about that, though. More evidence that I might be. But if I am, it seems like I've had a lot of opposition from the Illuminati, But in any case, and I don't mean like specifically like from the darkest reaches of the Illuminati or from anyone behind anything else. But like it seems like I've had a lot of opposition from some of the same control systems that the Illuminati seems to be associated with. So, but yeah. But yeah, the thing being, like, I probably didn't even like the Backstreet Boys songs that much when I heard them. Like it didn't get a response. Like I didn't seem to have a response, I don't think, that I had maybe hearing I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die, dabba dee. Like that was a lot of fun. That song I got a big kick out of. And like the song Hey Now You're an All-Star by Smash Mouth, and the song also from the Shrek soundtrack, I think, but it was like a redo of the Monkees song, whatever it was, whatever. But I don't think I had the same reaction to like the Backstreet Boys songs. In fact, like the song Larger Than Life, I liked the song Larger Than Life by NSYNC. Like that was a song that I remember hearing. I think I had bought like a Now That's What I Call Music CD, or I had like somebody bought it for me, my mom or dad or whatever, or it was I don't think it was on the Malcolm in the Middle music CD, which was actually a pretty good one, but I mean like some compilation CD I had, movie CD or whatever soundtrack, whatever space soundtrack there, and not a space movie necessarily, although who knows, but I think I might have had it on a CD somewhere, Larger Than Life. I think it might have been a Now That's What I Call Music CD, whichever one it was. It might be an interesting thing to go look at the cover of whichever one might have had that song on it, if one did, because it might be sort of like, hey, yeah, I remember the cover of that CD from childhood. But in any case, like, so I probably wouldn't have been, I might have said, like, someone might have said, like, hey, do you think this song is good? It's the Backstreet Boys. And I might have said, like, yeah, that was good. But, like, I don't think, like, I really hated the song necessarily. I think I probably, feeling back to it, I think I might have verged more on disliking it rather than liking it, though. Like, I might have went more to that side, like, truly how I felt about it. But, like, back then it was like, oh, the Backstreet Boys. Like, essentially, if you had given me a Backstreet Boys album back then, I probably would have been truly excited.